Two American soldiers went for a weekend hike along a jagged Moroccan cliffside and simply vanished into the sea.
Yeah, it is a startling reality. At 9:00 p.m. on a Saturday, commanders ordered a base-wide head count.
Right.
And by Sunday morning, a massive international military exercise called African Lion just ground to a really complete halt.
And we're talking about an operation involving up to 7,000 troops from 40 different nations. They just stopped dead in their tracks.
Exactly. I
Yep.
mean, U.S. and Moroccan forces redirected naval frigates, CH-47 Chinook helicopters, and specialized mountain divers. They plunged them all into the coastline near the city of Tantan.
Which is wild. And the official military statement was just incredibly brief. They basically said two U.S. Army soldiers fell from a cliff into the ocean during a spontaneous post-training recreational hike.
Yeah. So today we are taking you behind those headlines. We are sorting through official military dispatches, mainstream news reports from CBS and PBS, and internal military publications.
Right, like the Special Operations Command's tip of the spear, and of course, the wild, unfiltered speculation of internet forums.
Because our mission today is to cut through that online noise.
Right.
We need to understand what actually happened to these two soldiers. But more than that, we need to explore the massive, high-stakes reality of the U.S. military footprint in Africa.
Absolutely. And the environment itself tells a huge part of this story. Because when you read the words Moroccan coast, it is very easy to picture a pristine tourist beach with gentle waves.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So set the physical scene for us. Where exactly is the Cap Draa Training Area?
Well, Cap Draa sits geographically right where the arid, rocky plains of the Sahara Desert crash violently into the Atlantic Ocean.
Right, so not exactly a gentle slope into the water.
Not at all. It is a harsh, mountainous, and totally unforgiving landscape. You are dealing with jagged, high-elevation cliffs that drop straight down into incredibly rough, churning waters.
Wow, that sounds intense.
It really is. The
Yeah.
winds coming off the ocean are unpredictable, and the rock face itself is treacherous.
And the military has maintained a very unified stance on what happened on those cliffs. I mean, official sources confirm this was a tragic accident.
Yeah, they have stated clearly that there is zero foul play involved and, absolutely no ties to terrorism.
Right. The soldiers had basically finished their scheduled training for the day, and they were simply exploring the cliffs on their own time to unwind.
Well, that is the official timeline anyway.
Yeah.
But the sheer scale of the reaction to that timeline is what really demands our attention.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the logistics of that reaction are staggering. Imagine having 7,000 people playing a very intense, highly choreographed game of military laser tag across multiple countries.
Right.
And then someone hits a giant red button, the game stops. Instantly, you are executing a real life-or-death search and rescue mission with a foreign ally. How difficult is it to instantly pivot a massive exercise like that?
What's fascinating here is that it is a logistical nightmare if you are not prepared for it. Just consider what a search and rescue entails on a cliffside.
I can't even imagine.
You have CH-47 Chinook helicopters, these massive twin-rotor machines trying to hover near a sheer rock face.
Right, and the wind from those must be crazy.
Exactly. The rotor wash alone throws hundreds of pounds of wind pressure against the cliffs. Plus, you have naval frigates scanning the water and specialized divers dealing with violent undertows.
So doing that safely requires absolute seamless communication. You cannot be, exchanging business cards or figuring out radio frequencies while a helicopter is hovering near a cliff.
Precisely. And this massive response actually proves the hidden value of the exercise itself. The U.S. and Morocco did not have to waste precious hours figuring out how to communicate during this sudden crisis.
Because they were already integrated?
Yes, they were operating on shared radio frequencies. They understood each other's command structures. Because they were already training side by side, they deployed ground, air, and maritime assets as a single unified team.
They proved their interoperability in real time. That word, interoperability, is the key to this whole operation. It means playing nicely in the sandbox, overcoming language barriers instantly, and having commanders looking at the exact same map to make the exact same decisions.
Right.
But while the military was executing this highly coordinated physical search, a completely different kind of chaos was erupting online.
Oh, absolutely. A massive vacuum of information formed. The military issued a very tight, brief press release, and the search remained ongoing.
And nature hates a vacuum. But the internet hates it even more.
So true. The public completely filled the void.
They really did. If you were scrolling Reddit that weekend, you would have seen the theories flying everywhere. And to be fair, some users pointed to actual statistical dangers. They suggested a Humvee rollover.
Which is a highly logical guess based on historical data. I mean,
Ow.
Humvees are extremely heavy, top-heavy vehicles.
Right.
When soldiers are operating them at night, wearing heavy gear and using night vision goggles that severely limit depth perception, accidents happen. Vehicle rollovers are actually a leading cause of training deaths.
It is a logical leap. But the forums did not stop at logic. Users started guessing the soldiers got lost in the desert, went out drinking, or were even attacked by wild baboons.
Wow.
Yeah. And from there, the comment sections devolved into intense political mudslinging. Users were pulling this tragedy into the culture
It
wars.
happened so fast.
Yeah.
The tragedy became a weapon almost instantly.
Let's address that directly. Our sources pulled from various comment sections, and we saw users using this tragedy to take vicious shots at current and former U.S. presidents.
Yeah.
We saw people referencing reality TV shows to mock the situation. We even saw people criticizing the core discipline of the military itself.
Right.
I want to be absolutely clear to you, the listener. We are simply reporting on the ideas and comments captured in these source materials. We are not endorsing any of these political viewpoints, and we do not take sides in this partisan crossfire.
The political mudslinging is distracting, but this raises an important question. Why does the public immediately assume a hiking accident is actually a massive government cover-up?
I assume it has to do with the broader news cycle. People are already on edge.
That is exactly it. If you look at the news over the last few months, the sources show a steady drumbeat of U.S. casualties in places like Iran, Syria, and Kuwait.
So they are primed for bad news.
Right. People are reading daily headlines about drone strikes and real combat losses. So when they read about 2 missing soldiers in North Africa, they project all of their anxieties about those global conflicts onto this localized tragedy.
Which makes sense psychologically.
Yeah. They cannot process that a simple slip on a rock could take down an elite soldier, so they assume it must be a hidden act of war.
I understand the psychology, but isn't it a uniquely modern and frankly toxic problem? I mean, these families might not have even received the knock on the door yet from a casualty notification officer.
Right.
Yet within hours, people on their phones are turning a tragic slip on a cliffside into a geopolitical conspiracy theory before the families even know. We have to continually ground ourselves in the facts. The military's working theory firmly remains a post-training hiking accident.
It is the dark side of instant communication. But, to truly understand why people are so suspicious and why those soldiers were on that cliff in the first place, we have to zoom out.
Let's do that.
We need to look at the sheer scale of the operation they were participating in.
Right. Let's dive into African Lion. We keep throwing that name around, but the statistics are staggering. This is not just a small weekend drill in the desert.
Not at all.
African Lion is the largest annual U.S. joint exercise on the African continent. It spans 4 different countries: Morocco, Ghana, Senegal, and Tunisia.
And just think about the logistics. Moving 7,000 troops across 4 nations requires moving thousands of tons of food, fuel, medical supplies, and ammunition.
That is massive.
It is a logistical empire built from scratch every single year.
And they are preparing troops for modern warfare across every possible domain. We are talking land, sea, cyber, and space. And it heavily features AI and drone tech now.
Yeah, the technology is a huge part of it.
But I want to focus on the location. When I look at a map of that region, I see a neighborhood that is practically on fire. Look at nations just to the south, like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger.
Right, highly unstable areas.
They have all suffered recent military coups, their governments have collapsed, and they are actively pushing Western military forces out of their borders. So, anchoring 7,000 U.S. and allied troops in Morocco feels less like a random training choice and more like desperately clinging to a life raft in a turbulent ocean.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the life raft analogy is highly accurate. You have a massive belt of instability stretching across the Sahel region of Africa. The U.S. relies heavily on its alliance with Morocco to maintain any sort of stabilizing foothold in North Africa. And it is a relationship with deep historical roots.
How deep are we talking?
Really deep. Morocco was actually the first country in the world to formally recognize the United States as a sovereign nation back in 1777.
Wow. So there is a 200-year-old diplomatic foundation supporting this modern military footprint.
That foundation is critical Because the overall strategy for the United States is not to deploy American troops to fight every single battle or counter every terror cell around the globe.
Right, that is totally unsustainable.
Exactly. The strategy is to build partner capacity. By training alongside 40 other nations in an exercise like African Lion, the U.S. is ensuring that those partner countries can handle regional security crises on their own.
So what does this all mean? It sounds like African Lion is essentially a massive global insurance policy. The U.S. military is paying steep premiums right now during peacetime in the form of these expensive, complex exercises.
Yeah, that is a great way to look at it.
That way, if a major crisis erupts, like a regional war or a massive terror threat, the communication lines are already open and the combat tactics are already stress tested.
An insurance policy is the perfect way to frame it. But the policy requires constant, grueling physical maintenance. It is not just about generals shaking hands at a summit.
Right. And that maintenance happens at a very gritty human level. This brings us to the insights from the U.S. Special Operations Command publication, Tip of the Spear.
Which gives us a great look behind the curtain.
Exactly. It reveals that this joint training happens year-round in much smaller, intensely focused groups.
Special operations forces are constantly deployed globally. They work in the shadows of these larger exercises to build that tactical capability.
The sources outline how the 19 Special Forces Group recently spent weeks in Marrakech. They were running Moroccan forces through close-quarters battle drills and tactical medicine.
And, tactical medicine isn't just basic first aid.
Right. We are talking about applying tourniquets in the pitch black, managing airways while under simulated enemy fire, and dragging casualties out of buildings.
Yeah. And at the exact same time, thousands of miles away in Kenya, U.S. Air Force pararescuemen were graduating Kenya's very first rapid response unit.
Oh, wow.
They were teaching elite combat search and rescue techniques, showing them how to manage massive casualty events in hostile environments.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. I am struck by the heavy irony of all this.
How so?
The military spends millions of dollars and countless hours training these specialized units to execute intense combat rescues. They train to pull hostages out of fortified compounds or rescue down pilots from behind enemy lines.
Right.
But in this case at Cap Draa, those highly trained forces had to deploy those exact elite skills to search for two of their own men who simply went for a walk on a weekend.
It is a heartbreaking irony. But it really serves as a stark reminder of the immense, everyday risk of military service. The danger does not clock out when the training drill ends.
I think the general public forgets that. We assume danger only exists when bullets are flying.
Yeah, people often think military casualties only happen in active combat zones under direct enemy fire. But the historical record shows otherwise.
Absolutely.
The sources remind us that back in 2012, 2 U.S. Marines died in a catastrophic helicopter crash during this very same African Lion exercise.
That is so tragic.
It is. The baseline operations of the military carry constant lethal danger. Moving heavy armor, managing volatile explosives, conducting night flights in bad weather, and simply living in austere environments, it all carries risk.
Just putting on the uniform and deploying to a harsh landscape involves a fundamental acceptance of danger.
Exactly.
I want you, the listener, to really internalize that point. When you see a news headline about military exercises or training drills, it is incredibly easy to picture a safe, controlled environment.
Like a game.
Right. You imagine it like a physical video game complete with safety nets, referees, and an automatic pause button if things get too rough.
But reality doesn't have a pause button.
No, it doesn't. And this deep dive reveals that the military operates in inherently dangerous, unpredictable spaces. The men and women in uniform face real physical risk every single day.
Yeah.
That is true whether they are taking enemy fire in a combat zone or simply stationed on a rugged, unfamiliar coastline far from home. They step into the unknown spaces of the world so that the rest of us do not have to.
And looking at those unknown spaces brings up a critical question about the future of how we fight.
Right.
We are seeing militaries worldwide rushing to digitize the battlefield. They are aggressively integrating autonomous drones, massive multinational data networks, and artificial intelligence into exercises like African Lion.
Trying to predict enemy movements and optimize logistics.
Exactly. They are trying to engineer the perfect, frictionless, high-tech war. But, as this incident on the Moroccan coast shows us, no algorithm can control the raw, chaotic power of the ocean.
Yeah.
And no satellite network or AI prediction model can override the basic, unpredictable human desire to go explore a treacherous cliffside after a long, hard day.
So true.
So I'll leave you with this. In our relentless race to create the ultimate digital military, will our greatest vulnerability always be something as simple as human nature?